The language you use in an intervention is key. No accusatory language, no raised voices, no derogatory terms, no finger pointing. You feel all those things, but get that out the way before you do the intervention.
Hello and welcome to this Priory Explainer, where we take a topic in mental health or addiction and speak to one of our experts about everything that you need to know. Today we're talking about interventions when it comes to addiction. What they are, when you might need to stage one, and what you need to think about when you're staging one. Joining me today is Dee Johnson, a therapist at Priory Hospital Chelmsford. Hi Dee.
Hi.
So let's start with the definition. What is an intervention?
An intervention is a collaborative action taken by a group of people who are very concerned about somebody they care about that is clearly presenting that they've got quite acute and very serious addiction or substance use disorder issues.
So when might be the right time to stage an intervention, and what are some key signs that someone needs to step in?
The time for an intervention comes when everybody has got to the point that they actually feel quite despairing and hopeless and don't know what else to do because they've tried everything, talking to the person, maybe putting boundaries in, trying to reach out for them. And when the chaos and the unmanageability has really set in, and the person suffering from addiction isn't just harming themselves, it's harming everyone and everything around them. But they are really vulnerable and at risk in their physical health, their mental health, their security, even their financial security. And they could be at the point of taking real risks, even in legalities, breaking the law or taking real chances. And at that point where everybody is now that frightened and that worried that they really now know they need to pull together as a group to step in and see if they can help support and do something about, helping their loved one that clearly is very unwell.
So what are the main elements of an intervention?
So it should be a group of people, and it really should involve a professional, so a professional addiction therapist, and you also get specialist intervention addiction therapists as well. And whether you use that person actually in the intervention itself or you sit with them and have meetings with them first to get all the information, it's really important that you get professional advice. So everybody comes together and shares their experiences of what they're worried about, what's happened to them, what they see. Get the advice from a professional that actually does specialise in addiction. It really must be that specific of how to talk to that person, how to approach them. But what's really important before you stage the intervention, you must absolutely make sure that you've got a strategy in place. So when you say to the loved one that you're kind of going to capture, we found therapy, we found a rehab, we found support groups, you have to have all that stuff lined up. Because if you get the person to the intervention and say, well, we're going to look into this, they'll be gone, they're off. So having that structure in place, look, we've got a bed lined up for you at a rehab, we've got a therapist in place, your first session's tomorrow, this is a great support group, we're going to take you there this afternoon. Have all those things in place. Rehearsing it is really important. So for some people, you might need to write down all your feelings first to get it out. And then rewrite it without any of the anger and the angst and the hurt and the blame, because the language you use in an intervention is key. No accusatory language, no raised voices, no derogatory terms, no finger pointing. You feel all those things, but get that out the way before you do the intervention. So some people will find just being everybody taking it in turns to speak, how their experiences have been and what they want to do to help. Some people, I'll read out how I felt just so they can stay on track. That's really important. You might need somebody to check in the group that if somebody is starting to get a bit emotional and animated, you will need someone to step in and say, well, turn the volume down. I know you're emotional, but it has to be delivered in a caring, loving, supportive way without any anger, any blame, and any of the painful stuff that you feel. So you might need somebody in the group to slightly regulate that as well. And just understand that it could be uncomfortable. It could get a bit volatile. It could get a bit upsetting. So you need at least one person you can trust in that group just to stop it as you see it start to escalate. So I would suggest that you rehearse it, and you'll all know the person that you love and how they're going to respond. So you can even get someone to pretend to be them, and it might sound a bit uncomfortable, but it has to be executed in such a careful way because it's so important. This is about somebody's life that I think rehearsing it is really helpful. But again, having a professional interventionist, a professional addiction therapist with you in that space, actually I think is a bit of an anchor and really helpful, and will give the people involved in the intervention a bit of security and someone to turn to if they feel that they're losing control or getting a bit frightened or worried. The other important part is you've got to get your stuff out of the way before you even speak to your loved one who's suffering from addiction. So any anger, resentment, hurt, because you will have been hurt by this. Addiction in its nature, in the illness and the disease, is very selfish, is very damaging, is very illogical, is, really painful. So any anger, resentments, get that out the way, whether that's with your friends or with the therapist, writing it down. But you cannot bring that stuff into an intervention. The other most important thing about staging an intervention for your loved one is having very clear set boundaries, that if they choose not to take the offers of going to rehab, seeing a therapist, support groups, because they do have that right, they still have that autonomy and they might not be ready for it. As hard as that is, we have to respect that. Everybody in that intervention has to have very set, clear boundaries of what will happen if they do not stick to it. So that might be, I'm not going to give you any more cash. If you need food, I'll buy you the food, but I'm not giving it cash for you, or you can no longer stay here, or we're going to take your car away from you. Or if you go out again, we will report you to the police because you're driving under the influence, whatever it is. But the most important thing is everybody has to stick to those boundaries. You've really got to trust the people in the intervention that you will all agree and adhere to them. Because enabling someone who's suffering from addiction, you're coming out of a place of fear and love. Well, what if they do end up homeless? What if they do end up owing the wrong person money? It's really painful and hard. And if one person buckles, it takes the whole lot down. So that's a really vital point. If the person says, no, I'm not ready for your help, you've got to be clear of the boundaries of what will happen if they don't, and you must stick to them.
That's great. So are there any different types of intervention?
There are lots of different models, and different therapists and specialists will work with a variety of models, from something called the ARISE program to the Dee Johnson model, to a family systemic model. And they're kind of just all words, really. What's important is they have the same core, and the same core is being prepared, get the knowledge. And it's really, really important that all the intervention models have the same thing for the loved ones, for the family members, for the friends. Get to understand what addiction, substance use disorder is, and get to understand what it is not. Because it isn't about logic. When you're putting guilt and shame on your loved ones, you will make it worse, because that just gives the addict permission to go back into shame, go back into fear and isolation and use. So do not use language in any model of intervention like, look what you've got to live for, you've got a child, you've got a job, what are you doing to us, what are you doing to yourself? It won't work. And if anything, it pushes them further back into the pain. So you've got to learn the language. You've also got to learn to understand that it really isn't about logic. It is harmful, it is selfish, it is chaos, it is unmanageable. It's all those things, and no amount of reasoning will help that person, because that person inside is in a lot of trauma, a lot of pain, a lot of confusion. And if they're chemically influenced as well, it's really hard to reason with someone who is literally under the influence. And that includes behaviours, because gambling, gaming, porn addiction, your dopamine flooding, you're not able to think coherently and cognitively. So all intervention models will have that in common. Get your education on what addiction actually is. Get clear on your boundaries, but you must pull together as a group. But it's delivered in a very caring way, out of love. No blame language, no resentments coming out, nothing accusatory. It's as much as you might be struggling with that, absolutely no finger pointing, no voice raising, no anger. And that's why I think having a professional there to be that neutral person, to be that mediator, and actually be another person outside their group, this neutral person coming in saying, yeah, there is support and I'm part of that support for you. So all those models will have those commonalities.
Great. So you spoke about getting the knowledge before you go into an intervention. Are there any resources or any ways that you'd recommend that someone do that before staging an intervention?
There is a huge amount of information out there from drug and alcohol and addiction support charities and agencies now. But because it's so damaging being around a loved one who is suffering from addiction, it affects your mental health as well. You're full of despair and anger and rejection and hopelessness. So I would recommend seeing a therapist who specialises in addiction as well, or a mental health professional, going to any support groups to help not just reason out your experiences and let go of that angst and anger, but actually get the learning from it from a professional who's been there. And they're huge support groups. You know, there's the fellowship as well. We talk about Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous. There's also the similar groups for family members, Al-Anon and Alateen for teenagers. And it is information gathering, but getting the information from people who are actual accredited professionals in addiction, get that learning, because knowledge is power, and it will help you start to think, well, I haven't failed them. Because we talk about loved ones, because we can choose our family, it doesn't have to be family, just the people that care about the person who's suffering from addiction. We just say, you know, just remember it, you didn't cause it, you can't control it, and you can't cure it. And when you're blaming yourself for all that, it's really important to get external professional help to help you understand that and accept, while you're beating yourself up, it's just going to make matters worse. It's a family illness. It's a social illness. Everybody is affected. Everybody needs support.
If you found this video useful, please give it a like and we'd be incredibly grateful. And also, to see more content like this, please subscribe to the Priory channel. Thanks for watching.